It's football and other F words right here in Studio C at Cumulus Media Studios here downtown Nashville. Music Row. Man, it sounds so professional every time we get to introduce them there.
The heart of the city.
Maybe I am in the right angle that I will not look like an idiot or a slob. We'll see. We'll see here. I'm just not sure. All right. Hold on. Did I just turn myself off? Am I on? There we go. I can hear myself now.
I can't hear myself. Wait, no.
Yeah, we're back. We're back.
How about that?
Oh, man. Easton is already in the chat. He says slow news week. Yeah, nothing happened. Especially Easton just blabbing his mouth, calling people softs, telling people to pull up their big boy pants at the press media, saying, hey, you guys are a bunch of diaper babies, is what Easton said.
I wish he would have said milk babies.
Milk babies?
Yeah.
We do have to get to the milk baby of the week.
It's an easy one this week.
Who is it?
It's Will Levis.
It is Will Levis. You think he was a milk baby, though?
I don't know. I don't know who else it would be, though, in this situation. Because I think the crazy thing about that Bengals game is that a lot of things were going pretty well for that team until Will Levis imploded it.
That is true. I mean,
so I don't know who to point to.
I don't know.
It's the milk baby.
I feel like, Will Levis is the obvious one, so maybe we'll come to another one organically.
Maybe we just don't give it away this week.
Well, I think we have to.
Oh, fair enough.
We got Jackson behind the glass. Producer Jackson is here.
Shout out Jackson.
Jackson, how are you doing?
What's up, boys? Doing great. Glad to be here.
He's been smelling like cinnamon raisin toast from Hardee's. Hardee's apparently has candles now.
Cinnamon raisin biscuit.
Cinnamon raisin biscuits.
Man, I want to bathe in it.
You want to bathe in it?
It smells so good.
An elite candle, truly.
What we have found out is that both Stoney, obviously Soberos Network at Stoney Keeley, obviously stackinginbox.com, but obviously, if you are familiar with Stoney's work, he knows candles.
I like to think so, yeah.
I mean, how many reviews of candles have you done?
Reviews, I think 150.
Okay. So
Can
also,
I tell you, I'm working on a book about it, though.
Oh, you should.
Yeah, I'm writing a poem themed after a fragrance. And we're taking, my wife and I, she's gotten in on this too, we're taking the Yankee Candle large jars out into the world and photographing them. Like we took Autumn Daydream to Smoky Mountain National Park in the fall, and then I wrote a poem called Autumn Daydream.
I love it.
Do 100 of those.
Well, who's going to want to buy that book is also candle connoisseur and has a favorite scented candle, Jackson, behind the glass producer.
Wow,
Jackson.
That's small world. Candle lovers unite. Here at Football and Other F Words.
Everybody loves candles.
Yeah.
All right. I got something for you, Stoney.
Okay.
It's not Titans related. So we're not big chit chat guys. Nobody ever, hears us go off topic. So a couple of days ago, I decided it was time to get a pedicure. And as you know, we have been trying, me, your wife, my parents, my wife, have been trying to get you to start doing pedicures.
Yeah.
Because you are prone, if you don't mind me telling everybody, to ingrown toenails.
Yeah, I got an ingrown toenail chopped off last draft season, and it's quite painful, as a matter of fact. And it's already a year later, it's back, and not quite. My toe was turning purple and green when I finally went to the doctor. It's not to that point, but it's back at it, man.
Get that taken care. So I usually go get a pedicure at this place down the street from our house.
Mm-hmm.
They were just busy. And I was like, oh, well, I got time before I meet Lauren for dinner. I'll just go to another place.
Okay.
So I went to the other place that's also down the street from my house. I now have an ingrown toenail because they fucked it up.
Damn.
It is very painful. I think I was able to cut it and get rid of it. We'll see how it goes, but if not, I have a, just so you know, it can still happen.
Yeah, if you go.
But don't go to that place. And I will never say their name because I don't want it, because there was only like 3 people in there compared to the other place had like 20.
Yeah.
So the other place, really good.
But this is way too much info, but when that guy pulled my toenail out of my toe, it was like a quarter of an inch in. It was just blood. On the nail. I was like, I can't let it get that bad. But you know what my problem is? I'm not diametrically opposed to manicures and pedicures. I just don't have time for anything because all I do is sit in my office and I work. And then when I'm not working, day job, real life work, I'm like watching film, I'm writing, or I'm podcasting.
Okay, so here's all you got to do. You know, they have massage chair. Can I say it?
Mushrooms.
Massage chairs.
Oh.
First off, you get free wine or champagne if that's your thing. Okay. You get the massage chair has a little workstation that can come with it, so you can actually work while it's getting done.
Watching my William and Mary tape, getting my Charles Grant scouting report together while I'm getting my toes done.
There you go.
Man, I'm in.
There you go. See, we solved it. We solved your problem.
We need to find a pedicurist. Is that what they're called? Pedicurist?
Yeah.
Sponsor for Football and Other F Words.
There you go.
And then we just hook these mics up.
The other F is fungi.
I like it. You're onto something.
I am. Listen, I'm also thinking this. What about a pedicure place geared specifically towards men that instead of free wine, you get free bourbon and whiskey?
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
There we go.
Or gin, maybe.
Yeah, gin. I mean, if you're into that sort of thing.
I don't know a lot of people that drink gin, though. It's just me.
It's just you. Yeah. All right. Let's get to it. Where do you want to start? Because I mean,
I'll tell you.
We got people throwing some shade at Mike in the chat. Mike Herndon, formerly of Mike Herndon. Someone nominated him for Milk Baby.
I wasn't going to say it, but that was pretty funny.
That is Team Ramrod is in the chat saying it. The other people are. Will is saying, "Come for the Titans, stay for toenails and candles." Chef Rand says, "What's up, Cast and Couch crew?" So we got, I guess, what would you call it? Softgate. We have Softgate.
Yeah.
We have, the article that I wrote that is preaching patience. We also have TD and PK coming out today, both on their shows, talking about that for everything they have heard inside the building, from all the sources they got, looks like this crew's coming back.
Makes
sense.
We
got that. We have the terrible Bengals loss. We have the preview of the upcoming Colts game. Yeah. We have Will Levis getting benched.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. So where do you want to start?
I'll tell you exactly where I want to start. I was at my wife's company Christmas party last night.
Okay.
A very lovely affair. And my buddy Dan came up. Dan's a coworker of Aura's. And he came up and he said he was watching the show a little bit last week. And so I just want to give Dan a shout out. Shout out to Dan if you're watching Football and Other
Dan, what are we doing here? We've already wasted everybody's time talking about toenails.
That's where I want to start.
So you just wanted to start with Dan.
Shout out Dan. Shout out Dan.
Good job, Dan, or whatever.
Thanks for your support, Dan.
you got the perfect Football and Other F Words welcome. Stoney being really nice, me just burying any kind of niceness I can.
That's all I got.
It's a tip. That should make you feel welcome.
Yeah,
is how I feel.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Well, where do you want to start? Because I can start anywhere.
I just want to know why everybody so hates the Titans. I mean, I understand that they're 3-11, but why are we being so emotional about it?
I don't know, man.
I mean, the stuff you see in these chats on the radio, the callers you hear call in, the articles that you hear being written, the radio segments. I mean, today it's what did Gentry write today that I sent you? Is a wit from...
Oh, the Titans were hopeless without Levis or something.
Yeah, they went from bad to hopeless or something
Let me tell you something, bud. Sticking with Will Levis makes the Titans hopeless.
Can Gentry go a week without trying to bring up Vrabel? That'd be phenomenal because I'm pretty sure he was the guy that asked the question hey, what do you think about being worse than the last 2 years? Brian's like, what the fuck are you even talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just is kind of... I don't know when I became the sensible one. What happened here? I mean, I'm usually the emotional one or the one yelling and all this stuff. And it's I'm not the one who had a kid. I got another puppy. I don't think Havana has, mellowed me out and all this kind of stuff. I get it. I get why people are frustrated.
Yeah.
But they're coming from a point where it's reaching personal attack levels and they're being totally disingenuous about the Vrabel era.
Yeah.
And
that's a big thing. There's some big time glazing.
And there's some big time
on.
revisionist history from people who said different things on the show, on different shows, different articles and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, listen, this team's bad. There ain't no way around it. In fact, shit, you know what? I saw Ron Slay the other day, and I meant to ask where he's hiding his Blantons for us, but put that on the back burner.
Oh, he hadn't mentioned that on the air recently.
Yeah,
he might have heard us say something about
find that
it.
Blantons. But the Titans will only go as far as Arlington Hambright will take us. But it really, and I think Team Ramrod's got it. Like, it really is bizarre how weird this is. Like, this whole situation, and the weirdness of it's like, I understand that, you know, some people may have gotten inside information from Mike Vrabel or have, you know, befriended him and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I kind of look at it like, this is a business. Okay, he's out the door.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, we got to quit bringing up that, well, Vrabel did this, even if he didn't, by the way.
Do you think that happens in other markets? I mean, how often do you see... I don't know. I'm not watching a lot of other teams.
Well, the Colts market glazes everybody.
Well, that's true.
So, I mean, like, but they probably have now come back around to Jeff Saturday, man. What a great coach. Best interim head coach in the NFL.
What a commendable job he did.
Yeah.
Back against the wall.
Eddie goes, what's Quentin Bohanna up to? Well, he's Arlington Hambright, and you can't convince me he's not.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I think part of it, for one, I would say I've been kind of out of the Twitter streets this week. Been a lot going on.
I'm trying to back away from it because it's just too much.
It helps, like, because I was getting people. I don't know if you remember a couple of weeks ago, I did a breakdown on the controversial Hail Mary. Everybody said was a Hail Mary. And I watched the tape and I'm like, actually, I don't know. Like, this looks like it was designed where there's an outlet to Tyjae Spears depending on what the linebacker does, and then there's a break outside down the field with a wall of blockers theoretically for Calvin Ridley. Could have been a one-on-one situation. And I put this thread together like I don't think it was a genuine Hail Mary. And somebody commented on it and was like, "You're overthinking this." And I'm like, I don't. Was
it another scout in the Twitter community?
No, it was not. No, it was not. Unless it was a burner. It could have been a burner. But I'm just like, this is nuts, man. Like, you can't post anything positive about this team without somebody coming into your mentions talking about Callahan's beta. Callahan is not manly enough. These players have quit. These players are soft. And all this stuff like Callahan needs to go. Rand needs to go. Levis needs to go. We got people in the chat on the Hot Read podcast talking about hire Jack Del Rio. It's like the craziest stuff.
I think he's just trolling, though. Shout out Lewis Chesney, who's apparently blocked, I guess, on 104.5 The Zones. Do you know Lewis Chesney, Jax? Because I know you do Buck's show.
Have not seen Lewis Chesney.
Have you ever seen him?
No.
Okay.
So he must have been blocked before my time.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I saw somebody.
When I first started getting the show, Jackson, he started calling me Choo Choo for some reason. I still have never figured that out. But then I guess he got blocked and he's never on the chat anymore. But shout out Lewis Chesney. I interact with him on the Hot Read podcast when you do it.
Yeah. You
still don't know why. I still have never used the time to ask him why he called me Choo Choo. But he was calling me something different this past week. I can't remember what it was.
I don't remember. I can't keep up. He calls me a lot of stuff too, but I can't keep up with it. But you know, like the crazy stuff is out there. And so I finally got to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't have time to deal with this stuff. I've got a lot going on. I don't mean to make myself sound like important or anything. What you choose to do with your time and your mental headspace is very important to your general well-being. And I kind of got to a point where I was like, this stuff is affecting me. I can't do my job right because I'm angry and I just want to tell people to fuck off. So I gotta get out of this. And so I get out of it, but I'm still studying the team. I'm still watching the game, watching the tape, all that stuff. And so I get this impression, which if you're a subscriber at Stacking the Inbox, you probably know this. Like, there's a really positive tone to a lot of the work that I've been doing recently. I'm watching the film and I'm saying, man, the offensive line is starting to gel a little bit. There's still mistakes. There's still far away from being a real elite unit in the NFL, but they're making progress. And I'm seeing like wide receivers are getting open. The scheme is working. I think the play calling at times is really just killer. The interior defensive line, Jeffrey Simmons, Tavondre Sweat playing really well. Depth is emerging for this team, which is an important part of rebuilding a roster that people don't talk about enough. And so I come out of this with all this positivity and feel like, man, this team really is trending in the right direction, except for the quarterback position. And then I get on Twitter again, and all I see is like, the Titans have gone from bad to hopeless, and people are like, fire Brian Callahan, and he's doing a terrible job, and Rand Carthon stinks, and I'm just like, what is the disconnect here? I think part of it is the media, because I do think there is a component of knowledge if you're not really like truly sitting down and studying the tape. And we talked about last week, people don't realize it takes time to do that. If you're not really doing that, then I don't know if you really know. And it's not to say that I'm super smart and everybody else is dumb. That's not what I'm trying to say here.
Well, I'll say you're super smart and everybody else is dumb.
You see like the positive aspects of this team developing. It's not quick enough to make this a playoff contender, of course, but you see the positive aspects of it. So if you don't see that stuff, you do just dwell on the negative shit.
Right.
And then you combine it with the fact that the fan base is mad. It's an instant gratification sort of situation where we thought this was going to be a playoff contender and Brian Callahan was going to get this thing turned around year one, that sort of deal. It didn't happen. It's been a disaster. We're mad. We've got our pitchforks. We're ready. We want heads to roll. If you're in the media, you can stoke those fires by encouraging it. And so it's like the oh shit, what is it? The snake biting its own tail kind of deal.
Or Ouroboros.
Yeah.
Ouroboros?
And it feels like that's
Ouroboros?
where we're at with
Aurora
this.
Borealis?
Ouroboros. Yeah. Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
Murfreesboro.
You get in a cycle. You spiral.
Yeah, it's a cycle. And I feel like that's where we're at now, where people are just getting madder and madder and madder, and the takes are getting wilder and wilder and wilder. And it's a fever pitch that everybody's just going to be let down when Brian Callahan gets to come back for 2025.
Alex Sears says, man, that'd be a Shiano show. I think he's trying to say shit show. Well, you can cuss on our chat. We don't care, Alex.
Yeah, no, we're not. Yeah, we're cool with that.
Yeah, we're not family friendly. I mean, we are family friendly if your kids can handle cussing.
Yeah.
So
I can't wait for that to be clipped and put on Twitter, and,
We're a
and
family
people
show.
people are gonna call us on that.
I think there is something to just being in media in general, because I was kind of talking about this with someone. I'll keep their name because I don't want to throw them under the bus. But I was telling them, when I started breaking into podcasting, Stoney, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but when I was, I think I did send this in a message to you. But anyway, when I was breaking into podcasts, people would be like, what's your end game? And I'd be like, well, I'd like to be on the radio, be on TV, whatever. And they say, well, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to change this about you. You're going to have to polish this up, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I haven't changed a damn bit. And I got to a radio show. And I think there's a certain point where everybody has this idea of no matter if it's audio, video, written content, has this idea of what content should be to be popular. And I just don't think that's necessarily true. And I think that when you see people like Mina Kimes, Benjamin Solak.
There we go.
Yeah,
we got
man,
there.
I'm having a tough day today. But when you see people like Mina Kimes, Benjamin Solak, and more people gain this mainstream status that are, nerds.
Yeah.
They're nerds. I think that there is a place for smart football content. Clickbait's great. There are places for, your first takes, because we're going to play a clip from First Take. There's places for stacking the inbox. There's places for, A to Z, Paul Karski. Because you're reaching such a broader audience that there's content for everybody.
Yeah.
But I do think that people get in this trap of that, hey, you have to do it this way. You can't do it that way. And you'll never succeed if you try to do it that way.
Sure.
And listen, I may never be a millionaire, but at least I'm getting this. I got somewhere to where I want to be doing this show, and I'm get to do a show with Blaine Bishop, and it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And I get to do shows with Kevin Dyson and Brad Hopkins, and I got Ramon Foster and Ron Slay and Brent Doherty and Don Davenport, Will Bowling, all these people, Buck and Lucas and Kayla. Like I get to do all these shows with these really smart people who genuinely care about the listener.
Yeah.
And care about their audience. And I just think about it and I'm like, man, think about Pardon My Take, right? Like, it's not the smartest show. I mean, it's funny smart. Like, what I'm saying? Like, it's got some really smart jokes. Yeah, witty. But you're not getting a really, like, great X's and O's contest, but there's a place for it, right? And, there's a place for everything. And I think that we've gotten so used to everything has to be for clicks, and everything has to be for engagement. Everything has to be for this or that. And really, I think that if you're just authentic, you can catch more flies with honey, I guess.
You catch more with honey than you do with vinegar.
There you go. But I also look at it this way. I just think there's a disconnect of what people think a football team is.
Yeah.
Like, I start hearing stuff now, and maybe it's just my exposure to Blaine every day, but I hear stuff now is like, did you even play a team sport? Like, I just am like, and look at me, you can see me on here. I'm not some freaking, jock or anything. I mean, I played 1 year of high school football as a third-string running back and second-string cornerback. Not that great. I played a lot of soccer, but I played team sports almost my whole life. So I just get to the point where it's like, why are we getting so fucking personal?
I don't know.
And that's where it's at. Like, I feel like some of this stuff starts to broach a personal level where it's just like, you have totally lost the plot in what these people are.
Yeah.
They're people.
Well, and if I may say something, this might
ahead.
speak to the larger society at hand here. I was in Target today, and I walked through an aisle. I'm a big guy. I don't know if you can tell on the broadcast, but I'm like 4 feet wide. I take up a lot of space. When someone's approaching me on the other side of the aisle, I will usually turn, let them through with their buggy, and I'll smile and nod. Sometimes I say, hello, excuse me, pardon me, that sort of thing. People, you say that, and like people don't even look at you anymore these days. And
Sammy said this. Our producer Sammy said the same thing yesterday. So she said hi to someone. And I know I'm just like being rude, interrupting you. So there we go. But like, if I don't say it, it won't. I will never remember to say it. But Sammy walked by someone in the hallways. She said hi. They didn't say hi. She's like, we got to teach people how to say hi.
Well, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, I just feel like I'm with the boomers on this one. That maybe this is my boomer take of the week, but a new segment we could have.
Yeah.
Boomer take of the week is that people just aren't nice anymore.
Right.
And people are kind of.
We've gotten too bold as a society.
Yeah. And part of that is the advent of social media and being able to say whatever you want to say behind a keyboard. There is a sort of humanity that is lost with a lot of these people that say some like really hurtful things and some really crazy things too, like big braining it with, I got a comment the other day that said like Rand and Amy got together and forced Callahan to bench Will Levis so that they could evaluate him for the last 3 games.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And I'm just like, it ain't that hard, people. Like, watch the games.
I mean, Will Levis sucks. I mean, and listen, I know that there's a lot of people that hate when you say a player sucks or something. Okay.
Yeah.
Will Levis played terribly.
Well,
and Brian Callahan is telling you that.
Okay, Will Levis played poorly enough to get benched.
Yeah, right. But at the end of the day, and listen, I gotta look like this. I don't know. It's a buggy, Josh Domsky. You can call it a buggy. You can call it a cart. It could be either. Because you got called out by someone in the chat. Josh Domke said, wait, buggy? It's a shopping cart. Well, bro, it is a buggy down south, so.
Yeah. Who says shopping cart?
Yeah, you just say cart.
That's not
right?
efficient.
Yeah.
Buggy.
Okay, so, yeah, and we probably sound like two, soft millennials, I guess you could say right now, but I don't give a shit. Like, I think that's the difference is I don't consider myself like, oh, I'm a big tough guy. You know, I'll fight you in a bar. But like, you know, just don't give a fuck what anybody says. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think at the end of the day, that I guess should lead us to that is that the Mike's article just rubbed me the wrong way. And there were some good points made in it. I mean, and I see like a lot of his point. The premise of the article I thought was why you shouldn't trust Callahan and Rand Carthon. I'm skeptical that Brian Callahan and Rand Carthon should pick the next quarterback. And then it dives into a bunch of shit that doesn't even matter about picking a quarterback, right? It's a totally different genre of traits that you need to pick the right quarterback.
Yeah.
Your team being penalized has nothing to fucking do with your ability to find a quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just throw that out there. So it just became this kind of like hate piece, I feel like. And I don't think that he meant that when he was writing it, or maybe he did. Maybe like him, maybe this was a cathartic release, right?
Could have been.
I mean, my piece was very cathartic.
Yeah.
It was 7,000 words of catharticism or whatever it is.
It's a novella.
People may think it's a manifesto.
Well, that's not that word. Oof.
Yeah. But like, I kind of look at it and I go, he starts getting into the weak-minded and the soft. And I think the way that he worded it is what I take issue with.
Yeah.
If you want to say Mike Vrabel's teams were tougher, I could get on board with that. I think I wouldn't say it's like some levels above like everybody wants to pretend, but I would say there is a little bit tougher, you know, attitude, I guess, to it. Does not mean these players aren't tough. Doesn't mean these players aren't weak, you know, or wait a minute, aren't strong.
Yeah.
You know, what I'm saying, like,
okay.
But here's the thing that drives me nuts about it is that that's not how he worded it. And then he goes in to try to defend itself by saying, well, you're 3-11 and you're not as tough as the team across from you. And, you know, he starts pulling in, well, you know, second half letdowns. And did everybody forget the second half disaster that was the Tennessee Titans in 22 and 2023? When you look at efficiency stats on offense and defense, this team's better collectively in the second half. Yeah. When you look at points scored per game in the second half, this team's better. I think everybody forgets that because they got out to big lead in a few games when they were playing the Commanders and Raiders and another team, they scored 0 points in the second half, but because they got out to a lead, they were able to maintain it.
Yeah.
Like that was a terrible second half team. So if this team is quote unquote soft and weak-minded due to second half failures, well, then Mike Vrabel's teams definitely were in 2022 and 2023.
That's what I was going to ask you. Because the perception is, by and large, whole sample size, Mike Vrabel had tough football teams.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that they were particularly tough and hard-nosed in 2022
I mean,
and
were they
23?
like the 85 Bears? No, but I mean, I here's the thing.
Because I
think this is where we could get and catch ourselves in a trap. So this is what I want to say. I think both Vrabel and and Brian Callahan have tough teams.
Yes.
Are there moments where a player or maybe a whole unit of the football has a down game?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because you know what? They're fucking human.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, they're still people. But do I think by and large that there are 53 guys in that locker room that are weak-minded or soft? No. Do I think that about Mike Vrabel's teams? No, absolutely not. I just shouldn't finish it. Yeah. Absolutely not. Don't cut that off. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And because I don't think we have never seen on either of these teams I cannot remember anybody's name. Who was the Staley? Brandon Staley.
Brandon Staley.
We have not seen a Brandon Staley moment. We haven't seen a Russell Wilson moment where everybody ditched him. Because, like, here's the thing. What's your definition of soft? Yeah, is it losing? Because that's the wrong definition. Is it that they quit? Well, then this team's not soft.
Yeah.
Because this team has shown that it's not quit. It's there every fucking week.
Yeah.
They're just not a very good team.
Well,
and they're new.
Yeah, and the larger point that I was going to make was that it's just a happy coincidence, I guess, that Mike Vrabel's toughest teams, like just mentally, physically, you never count them out of a game. They hit you hard, all that, like the stereotypical toughness stuff. Those teams are the teams that won. And so when you look at the last couple of years, I don't think they necessarily looked as particularly tough as we perceived the Mike Vrabel teams to be. And so I think the point that I'm getting at here is that you probably do look, like just from the eye test, you probably do look a little tougher when you're actually talented.
Yeah.
And you have good players that are winning games.
There's a difference between being I look at it this way. So he brings up the Skoronski thing that they had a hard time overcoming adversity. I don't think that's a weak-minded issue per se, because to me, weak-minded means that they're idiots or that they're not smart enough.
Or they fold at the first sign of adversity.
First sign of adversity. I don't really consider that what he was trying to really say.
Yeah.
They're learning how to overcome that. These are new players. First off, you've asked a second-year player and a first-year player these questions, because we're talking about the cold with Jarvis Brownlee Jr. too. And Chris, I've heard a couple of people talk about it, players say, well, like, it's just cold. You could have a good game and the cold can still affect you.
Yeah.
And so I kind of look at it and I go, I just feel like those were too strong of a words in an article that's titled something that has nothing to do with this.
I really think that we're reaching specifically on the Jarvis Brownlee comments. Yeah. Like, I don't know what kind of media training the rookies get when they enter the league, but like, I know I've said some dumb shit when somebody's asked me like, hey, what happened here? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess, I don't know. Reaching for answers, you know, and that's kind of what the comment felt like to me, like a guy that just didn't really know in particular what happened and was just like pulling something out of his ass, like maybe the cold got to guys. And now we're still like hammering him for that. And now we're making sweeping claims about the entire roster because Jarvis Brownlee slipped up and said that maybe the 42 degrees were too cold for our players. And even in Brian Callahan's media availability following that game, when he was asked about it, his response to it was, no, I don't think it was too cold for guys. If so, that is alarming or something like that. And to me, when that happened, I made my jokes. I said of Jarvis Brownlee, like, tell me you're from Miami without telling me you're from Miami. But that was it. And so for it to be brought up as evidence that the team is soft is just, to me, we're really stretching here.
Well, and especially when people get like a cough or a sniffle, they're not going to work. Yeah. These guys are playing through way more injuries than you are, and and this idea that they're not trying or not putting out effort or they've quit on this team is just really fucking bullshit.
Yeah,
I mean, and I agree because, I mean, think about it. And listen, we dogged Jeffrey Simmons for his performance at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
But that dude has cranked it up. We've talked about it. With one arm, a guy like that making millions of dollars could have easily have checked out of this season, got a surgery on his arm, said, see you guys later, I'll see you next year. No, he's still out there fighting with one freaking arm.
Yeah.
Like, what are we even doing here?
T'Vondre Sweat is fighting through something.
And then people are like, well, MPF's not that soft. Well, that doesn't mean the whole team's not soft, right? I mean, we saw Leroy Watson out there fucking dogging people out there, and maybe MPF, is dealing with his own thing. We know he doesn't have that dog in him. But it doesn't mean that he's probably still not tough. I mean, he probably is playing through injuries and stuff like that. There's no guy that's not playing through an injury, like whether it's severe or minor. There's no guy that's not banged up, bruised up, sore, and all that kind of stuff.
Tell you what, I bet you NPF could swing a fist at me and still give me my 6th concussion.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think that's soft.
I don't know. I think you could take it.
No. Now we gotta ask that in the locker room.
Yeah,
hey, would you fight this guy?
Yeah, well,
Thursdays at 6 on 104.5 The Zone. Check him out.
It's just funny to me like and then it gets to the point where you hear national media making fun of you.
Yeah.
Like, for the people that think this team is soft, for the people that continue to bang this drum, even the people outside this that aren't even here are just ragging you, and you still think you're right. Hats off to you. But I guess, you just got to understand you're wrong. Like, I mean, at some point, you just kind of have to admit that you are not in that locker room, and there's no way that this team has quit. And I don't think there is a time where a Vrabel team quit.
No.
And this team hasn't quit. This team is just not good enough. Like, and that's a whole nother conversation. But, like, if Mike Vrabel was some, big, tough mentor guy and all this stuff, well, weren't we all calling Andre Dillard's, weak? NPF was bad last year, and he's a little weak. And, like, not everybody takes on the attitude of the head coach.
Right.
But
which you've talked about with Blaine before.
Yeah, I will say
how the players form the culture.
Players form the culture. And by and large, this team is tough.
Yeah.
This team is fighting. This team is injured, and this team is bad. And it has nothing to do with anything other than they're just bad. And I get it. It's like, you're 3-11, so everything must suck if you're 3-11. But that's really not the case.
Yeah, and it speaks to a larger issue, to circle back to what we were talking about before, like the broader understanding of football. I think there's a foundational disconnect between like the people in football and the fandom. And I don't think people in the fandom, I was one of them too. Like, I don't think you realize how much ambiguity, gray area there is in football, how many things impact a single play, how many things impact a single roster on a day-to-day, week-to-week kind of basis. Like, it's just everywhere. All these moving parts.
Okay, the Cedric Gray missed tackle is a good example. One guy messed up, and it's a big run.
Yeah.
But then everybody says it's the coach's fault.
Exactly.
But it wasn't. It was Cedric Gray's fault.
Because people want the concrete answer. They want a scapegoat to point their finger to.
They don't want context and nuance.
Yeah, they don't. They don't want to say,
I don't know why they're here.
I get called a fence sitter all the time because if I get asked about a prospect, I go on this like diatribe about, well, it depends on who drafts him. Like, what is he drafted to be? Is he going to be the starting left tackle, or is he going to get time to develop? Are they running gap? Are they running zone? What type of zone? What type of gap? Like, who's his competition? How many other tackles are they bringing in? And I can sit and just bloviate for an hour about a single offensive tackle that might not even get drafted.
Yeah.
And that is kind of where you start unraveling, like, the bigger picture here is just that there's so much ambiguity in football, and people want absolutes.
Yeah, and they want and I think they want results right away, which I agree.
Yeah.
The results should be better than what they are. But guess what? Your quarterback nuked the whole thing. So before we get into the quarterback talk and all this kind of stuff and promises made in the offseason, all that, I want you all to hear, just in case you haven't heard, because we played it on Blaine and Zach today, cover 2, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. here on 105 The Zone. This is First Take. This is Dan Orlovsky and Stephen A. Smith. They play the clip at the beginning of Brian Callahan, but here is what they had to say about that clip.
I don't blame him for it. He would know, and he should defend his team. We all know that the real problem with the Titans is that they don't have a quarterback. We all know this. We don't even know. I judge this, Dan, obviously from a football analytical perspective, I'll leave that to you. But I remember seeing coaches. I've never seen coaches go up to an opposing coach after a win and hug the losing coach and hold on to them as much as they hold on to Brian Callahan. It's, they're saying to him, man, we know this ain't you. It ain't you. You ain't got a quarterback. It's not your fault because he hasn't really had a chance to coach his team. I love his personality. I love the way that he holds guys accountable. You look at them, they do play hard. I don't think we can look at the Titans and say they don't play hard or anything like that. And I'm certainly not going to be a non-football player looking at football players and calling them soft. I think that's very disrespectful. I don't think anybody in the media should be doing that. But the way you disprove what people are saying is you make sure your team goes out there and continues to show that in spite of the disability they have at the quarterback position, that everything else is taken care of.
So, one, anybody who knows football and that watches the tape and watches this team play knows that whatever or whoever called this team soft is completely ridiculous and has no idea what they're talking about. Two, I know Brian Callahan. There's nothing soft about Callie. His dad is one of the great offensive line coaches in the history of the NFL. You don't become that being soft. He's cut from the same cloth as his father. Their defensive coordinator, Denard Wilson, is from Baltimore. He's from Philly. Like, he coached at those places. They're not soft. I just called Monday Night Football when the Falcons played the Raiders. The Raiders haven't won a game since September. They're not soft. They're not good. It's a bad football team, but they play hard. It's the same thing in Tennessee. So I don't know exactly where this came from, but whoever said it or kind of intimated it should have apologized. There's nothing soft about Tennessee.
Yeah. And by the way, just because a team is losing doesn't make them soft. You got men playing in the National Football League. And so you could say they're not very good. And that's why I defend Callahan in taking the position that he taken and articulating it the way that he did, because, you don't just because a team is losing, it doesn't make them soft. You got a lot of cats out there that are hardcore, that go after it. But you have people at skilled positions who aren't nearly as skilled as they need to be.
Totally.
And that ultimately leads to your downfall. Yeah. There is a difference, and you can draw the distinction. To just lean on calling a football team as soft, I think that you got to be very careful of saying stuff like that.
I fully agree. So, like I said, when we played this clip on Cover 2, I looked at Blaine and said, I'm not saying that Stephen A. Smith and Dan Orlovsky listened to our show yesterday, but I'm also not saying it. That's almost exactly word for word what me and Blaine said. And Blaine's been in the fucking locker room. He's a warrior. Mm-hmm. Ron Slay was like, these guys aren't soft. And he was going off. Ramon Foster, Kevin Dyson would say the same thing. Brad Hopkins would say the same thing. These guys aren't fucking soft.
Yeah.
It was in incorrect usage of what you were trying to say, which was this team is bad.
It's crazy that it made it to ESPN.
Yeah, it is crazy, isn't it?
That's wild, man.
I also look at it like this in the sense that, again, this was supposed to be a article about, why they shouldn't pick a quarterback. Well, we never really got an answer of what about quarterbacks they can't figure out.
Yeah.
And except for, they believed in Will Levis. Well, who else was there to fucking believe in? What is Brian Callahan is supposed to do?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what is Brian Callahan supposed to do? Well, Amy, Burke, Chad Rand, I've watched the tape. I've seen some good things. But I haven't met the kid, but I can already tell you he fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And it's you either got to choose him or me.
Yeah.
Okay. That's scenario one. Or he comes in and says, hey, this guy fucking sucks. Can't do anything with him. Let's get a new quarterback. I'll try to work it, but let's get a new quarterback. Never met him, but that's what we'll do. Mm-hmm. That's scenario two. Or does he want to get the fucking job?
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Also,
we were going to discount the fact that Brian Callahan, who has been a scout for the Cincinnati Bengals, by the way, which is something I wish I would have remembered to put in my article. He used to be a scout for the Bengals. All the coaches are scouts.
Yeah.
So he used to be a scout for the Bengals. He's probably, because he's a quality control coach, has put on a lot of information about offensive game plan, schemes, quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
The only people who called him a quarterback whisperer and a guru were the articles written after he got hired here by people in the local media.
Yeah.
Literally go Google it. Those are the only articles that pop up, which is ridiculous, by the way. All he has been is a guy that's been around good quarterbacks. And what that means is that he has the experience to know what is a good quarterback, what is a good offensive system, what will work, what can attack defenses, and how can we do it.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're discrediting him because Will Levis is bad and became what he was on tape is utterly ridiculous because he had no clue he was buying damaged goods.
I would also charge the fans that say that to take a look in the mirror, because I think we all bought in on Will Levis's physical traits. I think we were all looking at Will Levis last offseason saying, this guy has the tools to be great. So now we're going to act like none of us ever believed that, and it's Brian Callahan. It's a detriment to his reputation that he believed in Will Levis. Like, we didn't all believe in Will Levis, at least a little bit. He still had some haters. You know, a lot of people in Knoxville never came around on Will Levis, but there were a lot of us, myself included, I'm guilty of it too, that said, hey, with this scheme, with this system, with this guy's track record, and Will Levis's pure arm talent and his physical traits and his tools, they're going to figure it out. So I take issue with that a little bit.
Well, I also want to bring
a little
this,
hypocritical.
So this is from a Pete Prisco article when he was here over the summer. I think he could be one of those top 5 quarterbacks of football, Callahan said. He has everything you need to get to that point. Now he has to prove it. The good thing is he's trying to prove to people who believed in him they were right rather than trying to prove people wrong. It's been a fun offseason coaching him. He's everything you want. He's readily coachable, and he has a good sense of the things he can and can't do. Now, I was sent this by someone, and they highlighted top 5 quarterbacks. Yeah. So I think they wanted me to say that, well, Callahan said that he was a top 5 quarterback. He can be. He's got to prove it, which is everything we have said, right? Like, how many times have we heard, even though I pushed back on it, how many times have we heard, well, his ceiling is Josh Allen? Hey, is Josh Allen a top 5 quarterback? I'd say fucking so. But he has to prove it, and he has to do it. And I think what Brian Callahan is saying, because it's in the middle of the summer, he's seeing all this stuff. This is before the Chicago game, and there were struggles at camp. But also, what is he supposed to say when he's asked questions? Because there's other interviews and other things where he's like, I believe in Will. You know, he's got to go out there and do this, this, and this, but I believe we can get him there. What is he supposed to say? No, I don't believe in our quarterback. Now that I've been able to talk to him for a few meetings and quarterback meetings, he's dumb and he sucks, and he's never going to be able to read a defense. Like, to me, that's not, first off, any coach is going to do. And all they did was everything. Now, all Brian Callahan did was any kind of quote unquote positivity he threw out there is normal coach positivity. Yeah. But he always prefaced it with, he's got to prove it. He's got to do it. And he got to that first game. Holy crap, what's going on here? What is this guy doing?
What the fuck are you doing, Will?
This is not what we practice. This is not what I've seen in practice. This is what we've not, we haven't drawn up these plays like this. Why aren't you throwing it on time? Why aren't you reading the defense correctly? Okay, well, we'll see next game. Oh, my gosh, Chet's game. Holy crap, what the F are you doing? And it just got to a point where, and everybody thinks he got benched for the Bengals game, benched the rest away for the Bengals game. It was the Bengals and the Jaguars, and probably the other games, but definitely the Bengals and the Jaguars.
Brian Callahan said in his press conference, he's had a couple of really bad performances. I don't remember what he exactly
he's
said.
Had more than that, but I mean, ultimately what led this is, when you're looking at it, is okay, he made progress in that 3 to 4 game streak. Was it 3 games or 4 games? Do you remember off the top of your head?
I don't.
But either way, and then he really dropped trowel at the Jacksonville game, and then he got worse in the Bengals game. Yeah. And in those games, while he showed progress, something that we talked about on Cover 2 was, okay, it's time to take that next step.
Yeah.
He never really took that next step, and then he started taking steps backwards.
Yeah.
And when you start taking a step backwards, this is not to say that Will Levis won't be a good quarterback if he gets a chance somewhere else, if he gets a chance to sit and he gets a chance to learn and he may have found the right system. All we're saying is that right now, right here, Brian Callahan's system, no matter how much he's tried to conform it to the things that Will Levis does and the Will Levis things that says that he likes, is not working.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's not an indictment of the coaches or the GM's ability to figure out what a quarterback is.
Yeah.
And to figure out who could be the next quarterback, whether free agency or the draft, to get this team to be competitive. What that's telling you is pretty point blank, when you look at the numbers and look at the the 17 turnovers, right? 17 turnovers have led to 59 points. 24 in the Bengals game, and you lost by 10.
Yeah.
11 in the Bears game, and you lost by single digits. Jets game. I mean, all these games, and he couldn't score in the Jaguars game, and he lost by 4.
Yeah, I think you could flip the outcome of a lot of those games, and suddenly you've got a Titans team that's in the thick of a wild card hunt, probably on Houston's heels for the AFC South. It's crazy, and it kind of goes back to the gray area where so many factors contribute to the bottom line that it's really not that far away except for this position in this case. It's like the 14 million whatever Avengers in-game timelines. We just happen to be on this one with Will Levis. And I will say something that might be controversial, I guess, but what Brian Callahan was quoted as in that article from the summer, I think still to this day, that is probably true. I think he probably, from a physical traits standpoint, he probably does have the talent to be a top 5 quarterback. I think that's still true. Yeah. I don't think anything's changed about his arm strength. I don't think anything's changed about his quick release. I don't think anything's changed about his kind of underrated shiftiness as a runner. Like those physical aspects of the game, I think he still has that potential but
it's 90% of the other quarterbacking.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you just stop and think and listen to what he's really saying, it's a very careful way of saying he has everything you look for in a franchise quarterback. Got to get him to actually play quarterback.
Right.
And that's where the disconnect did not happen. But I don't think you can fault anybody for believing in that.
Right. And they should be publicly saying it, especially when they're asked questions about, which is going to be the question you ask the guy that just took over as head coach. Every freaking interview you do is about the quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, the quarterback is the most important position in football, and all of a sudden it's like you're supposed to talk bad about it and everything. I also look at it like this, in that the sense of learning from your mistakes when you're looking at draft prospects and watching the draft. I think this is a really big one. Obviously, we were both hashtag Never Levis anyway.
Yeah.
But this is a really big one for those who get tantalized by potential and get tantalized by the ceiling. And this is what I told Blaine. I said, you may think that ceiling's really high, but you get caught and stuck looking at that ceiling. You don't realize the floor is really low.
Yeah.
And that's why the ceiling looks high.
That's a bar.
There you go. And then really, that's kind of where it's at. And Ed Henry says, not saying Rudolph is Montana, because I want to take it this angle to the Levis benching. Not saying Rudolph is Montana, but if they lose out with him, is it fair to question Callahan? Well, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's fair or not. People are already questioning Callahan. I mean, Ed Henry questions him every week in our chat. I'm glad that Ed Henry's here.
Yeah. I can't hear you. I can hear me.
Did my battery die?
Uh-oh. Nope. We still on?
Yeah, you are on. I'm not.
So I need to just vamp right now. I'm vamping. Okay.
Tell Ed Henry I love that he's actually here.
Ed Henry, Zach loves that you're actually here.
But he does question him every week.
But you do question him every week. We're doing good, Jackson.
Nope, your mic's not on yet.
Okay. All right.
Boys, let's do it.
So fair to question Callahan. I don't want to frustrate you, Ed, but what are we questioning? Are we questioning the play calling? Are we questioning the play design? Are we questioning, because, was it his decision to sign Mason Rudolph to begin with? Is it just big picture, we're questioning everything about him? That's clarification there. The job that he's done, I don't know. I think you got to look at everything.
Eric White says, fire the entire staff of 104.5 The Zone and all other sports shows. Hosts suck. Keep Blaine Bishop.
Does that mean football and other F words just be me and Blaine?
No, nope. He says the entire. Well, yeah. I guess
I'm not
so
staff.
you would have to replace.
I'm your guest.
Yeah, you'd have to be Blaine's guest every day.
Me and Blaine, just 10 hours a day.
Thanks for listening, Eric. I really appreciate it. I mean, thanks for watching our show and all that kind of stuff. That really makes me happy. Ed Henry And he goes, "That's what you get for questioning me," from a mic turning off. But I will say this,
love Ed Henry, by the way.
I mean, I think you're spot on in your analysis of like it's always been fair to question Callahan.
Yeah.
I've questioned Callahan's decision making
every
and
week.
stuff.
Every week.
There's a play every week where I'm like, well, what is he doing?
Yeah.
Why is he choosing to do this and not that? But I don't think that at the end of the day, if this team, I mean, it's still Mason freaking Rudolph. Like, yeah, Mason Rudolph may have won you the Bears game, but I'm not really sure Mason Rudolph is an average enough quarterback to win you other games.
Yeah.
Like, and that's kind of where I'm at because, I mean, he's still a below average quarterback, and there's a reason why he's a backup.
Yeah.
Now, I think the difference is, does he give you the best chance to win? And that's apparently yes.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is when they talk about the things that he does, right? They go, well, he's on time and he moves the ball up and down the field.
Yeah.
Well, that tells you what Levis doesn't do.
Not to interrupt, I'm sorry, but Film Friday's dropping in the morning, and it's really a couple of really good examples of how Will Levis is not really on time with his delivery.
And that's something that we've talked about all the time this whole season is that, me and Blaney, he always feels like he's a half second behind.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, you may not be great, but you at least need to be on time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you show up late to the radio show, you can't be a bore on the radio and come in late.
Yeah.
You at least got to come on time and be a bore on the radio, and maybe you get to keep your job. Or get fired like Eric White once everybody fired.
Yeah. Eric White's on one tonight. Yeah. I'm glad he doesn't sign everybody's paychecks. Ed clarified, I question his head coaching ability. So it is the bigger picture stuff. Those who support him will cite his play calling. That means he's a good OC. I need evidence that he is a good head coach.
I glad you answered that or asked that or stated that, I guess. Look at how the team plays.
Yeah, that's what
he's a good head coach.
Yeah.
And now let me specify that. I don't know if he's a great head coach.
Yeah.
He may just be an average head coach.
Yeah.
His teams may never win. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's because of a lack of ability to be able to do the head coaching job.
Yeah.
It may be dumbed down to bad players constantly, bad player acquisition cycles, or it may be dumbed down, to whatever. I do think that right now, if you were to say good head coach, bad head coach, and maybe neutral, I would have it in neutral. And I think that's fair. But if they were to lose these last 3 games, but the team is still looking really good, like when I say good, I mean like they're still fighting, throwing in effort. Nobody's clearly given up, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I still think he's a good or a neutral head coach, I guess you should say.
I'm leaning good, man.
I mean, I would lean good if I had to go one or the other.
I'm leaning good because of the positive developments of this team and the bigger picture stuff. Namely that guys are still playing hard despite the losing. There's clearly a sense of belief in that locker room that they can win. There was a point a couple of weeks ago, I think it was going into the Washington game. I don't remember which player it was in the locker room talking about, you know what, everything's still on the table for us. Like, we just need to win all the rest of our games. And it's like, we hear that and think, oh my God, this is crazy. But the belief was still in that building. And I do think part of that is the foundation set, the tone set by the coaching staff. And I think the offensive line getting better. I think the scheme consistently getting guys open. We've seen that. I started really noticing that in week 3, the Green Bay game. I think I wrote this game sucks, but there were some moments where things really looked like they were clicking. And so I think that's a mark of a good head coach. I think by and large, the autonomy of Denard Wilson and the defense, that's the mark of a trusting head coach that can let his specialist on that side of the ball do his thing. I don't think the defensive game plans have been consistently great throughout the season, but I think there are a lot of positive developments. I don't want to cycle through them because I've said them 3 times on this show, but I think there are a bunch of positive boxes you can check in favor of Brian Callahan.
Here's a good one. Ed Henry says, in fairness, staff choices. He assembled. Listen, say what you want about Colt Anderson, but at least it's not Craig Aukerman, Jason Hotelli,
best interview
Todd
ever.
Downing, Tim Kelly, Shane Bowen, then the mystery of not having a Shane Bowen. There's quite a few that you can go through on the list that one guy, Colt Anderson, does not erase that. And that's something that I talked about with Vrabel being a talent evaluator. Part of a head coach is not also being a talent evaluator of players, but also of staff.
Yeah.
And Brian Callahan leaned on his years of experience and relationships to build a really good staff.
Yeah.
And listen.
Doesn't it feel like everybody's in lockstep, too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing. Everybody's got the same message. You hear it from the players, and they go into detail. It's not player speak. It is like the details that they use to describe what's going on behind the scenes. Everything we hear about practice and all this kind of stuff, like it boils down to even his in-game management stuff, his sequencing. Those errors pop up less and less as the year goes on.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, and I would also shout out Nick Suss's piece from a couple of weeks ago for the Tennessean, interviewing guys about like the vibes in the locker room and whether or not the team is like giving up or are they still fighting. Like that's a strong testament.
And from everything we've heard from people in the locker room, the vibes are high, and it's not like the end of the Vrabel season last year. Yeah,
which is my thing. Like I know earlier you said that you didn't feel like correct me if I get it wrong, but like the Vrabel teams didn't quit on him or you didn't feel like they were soft or anything like that. But there was a point in last season when I did kind of feel, maybe not everybody, but it did kind of feel like, oh, these guys are kind of strained by this, with Jeffrey Simmons making comments about we got to stop talking about coach better, play better, and eventually we got to do it and stuff like that. Like that felt like real strain caused by losing games. And the Titans have lost a lot of games this season, and we haven't really seen much indication that is kind of happening and festering in that locker room.
Well, I mean, think about, when he called out the players, David Long and Christian Fulton.
Oh, man, yeah.
And then, there's been a lot more players that have left that have said bad things about Vrabel than when you start really thinking about someone in – what was I reading? I was reading something. I don't know if it was a Twitter thread or if it was a someone in the chat or something. But someone started naming off all these players that kind of like made backhanded comments about Vrabel and the locker room and stuff. And it's kind of like, well, maybe is it sour grapes, or is there enough evidence to support that maybe
start piecing things together?
You got to start piecing things together. I kind of want to get to. I guess let's talk about this idea whether or not this roster is better, because I do think this roster, if healthy, is more talented and better. But I think some of its best pieces that really swing it the other way, are injured.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's my thing, because we've heard it quite a few times from these Brian Callahan, Rand Carthon detractors. Well, Vrabel could win with this roster, okay, because this roster is better. Then why do you want to fire Rand Carthon?
Yeah, because he made the roster better.
Okay,
in an off season.
Okay, if your argument is the roster sucks, and then you're still saying, well, Mike Vrabel could have done more with this roster. Well, then he couldn't do wins with have winning records that really matter. Right, I mean, when you're comparing 3-11 and 6-11 right now, neither of them are good.
No.
Okay, let's just be honest. So I look at that, and I'm thinking, okay, well then if he couldn't win with the team that was supposedly better last year, how could he win with the team that's supposedly worse with also a worse quarterback option?
Yeah, I don't know.
It just doesn't make sense. Like it's a circular knowledge, or it's a spiral that doesn't make sense in my head.
Yeah.
And in the end, I do think this team would have had more wins had more people stayed healthy. But in the end, Stephen A. said it best. They have a quarterback problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say, too. They probably win more games if they start the season with Rudolph.
Yeah. And listen, it's boring.
Yeah.
Probably, I would say they're looking at 6 wins, I would say is safe. Sam Darnold, I think I could be like, okay, they got 7 or 8 wins with Sam Darnold.
Yeah, sure.
Mason Rudolph, I don't think I'm that confident, but that also shows you the big difference between, there's not really a big difference between 6 wins, 7 wins, as much as you think.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really not that much of a difference for this team from being a 6-win team to a 3-win team if Will Levis just didn't have blunders.
How many games this season do you think have you watched and felt like never at any point in the game were they ever truly in it?
I would say the Lions game.
They were 14-14 at one point.
I thought that was the Bills game.
Let me see. I got it written down. Oh shit, that's my draft notebook. Got my Jack Nelson notes out here.
But I don't.
Lions were, it was 14-14 before they went on a run and ended 52-14.
Oh, shit.
Bills, they were up 10-0.
Yeah.
And then there were 34 unanswered points.
Yeah.
I think of 2. I think the Packers game, and I know even in that game, they still pulled within like 10 points at one point, but it just kind of looked like an engine failure sort of game, like everything just catastrophically shitting the bed. And the Commanders game, they're the 2 that I felt like it's not their day. They're never really in it. Yeah. And I think they're outmatched as the games went on. You did kind of watch the Bills and Lions game and just feel like the dam's going to break at any moment. Yeah. But they were still competitive early on in that.
Did you say Washington?
Commanders and Packers, yeah.
I would say this. I also think about it like this. Like, did Vrabel actually make last year's team better?
Oh, man, I don't know.
Because you have Derrick Henry, right?
Yeah.
He supposedly, allegedly, is the reason why Andre Dillard and Aaron Brewer stuck around. Well, we could safely say Aaron Brewer stuck around because of him. He's the reason why David Long left.
Yeah.
Christian Fulton probably checked out on him because of the comments that he said.
Yeah.
So, do we really think that Vrabel elevated the team last year, or do we just kind of think a 6-win? Do we think, how many coaches do you think could have came in and done more than Vrabel with the same team?
Well, I think if we follow the logic that we're saying about Brian Callahan, it's a talent issue, players play.
Yeah.
Well, if we hold that same standard to Mike Vrabel, players play, make plays, then I think you've got your answer. No?
Yeah. Yeah, I find it I can't think, it not, going back to that Patriots ended the dynasty playoff thing, that's a game that Vrabel really stepped up his game as a coach won the game.
The clock management thing that he got on Belichick, and then
I can't think of a game that he made a definitive impact in that we're thinking, well, that's a game only Vrabel could have won.
We're just talking about winning. I was about to say, well, what about when he took over play calling in the AFC Championship game? And ran Dean Pease off or whatever that whole thing was about. They lost that game from him stepping up.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that Mike Vrabel wasn't a great coach at the time and still couldn't be a good coach if he learned from his mistakes on this go-around.
Sure.
But I am saying that we got to remember, we got to kind of like tone it down, like dial it back a little bit.
Well, it is, you're a really good coach when things are going well.
Yeah.
And when things are going well, you have good players.
Right.
So we just kind of get back to this same foundational point that
players.
I feel like people are kind of losing sight of, or it's a case where it maybe sounds lazy, like, oh, they didn't put much thought into that. Get better players. Yeah, no shit. But it's just kind of the truth, right?
Right. Okay, so, oh, man.
What do you have? What are you cooking?
I guess I look at it like this. Let's then shift gears to Rand Carthon, because people can't make up their mind whether this roster is better or roster is worse.
Yeah,
but I kind of look at it like this. Let's just scroll through it because we obviously know John Robinson slowly nuked this roster.
Mm-hmm.
3 bad draft classes you can never recover. Where you get very, very little out of them.
I mean, that's Isaiah Wilson, Caleb Farley, Traylon Burks,
which
first
Mike
round.
Vrabel's Isaiah Wilson. So
yeah,
apparently Mike Vrabel and Arthur Smith, but I've heard at least Mike Vrabel.
Mark Vrabel
too. But I look at it like that. he's culpable in some of the roster decisions. In last year's roster, let's go to this podcast. If we hated each other off air, right? Like if I every day for like a week came in, woke you up, I punched you in the nuts, and you just fucking hate me.
Yeah.
But we still come into work together. We're gonna have a bad show.
Yeah, probably
because we hate each other, and the authenticity is good. The inauthenticity, is that right? Yeah, inauthentic. So inauthenticity would shine through to the viewers, and we would have a bad show.
It's gonna be like that show. Do you remember down in LSU? Those two guys were talking. I think it was after Les Miles left, and they were talking about Billy Napier, and the guy got really mad, and the guy said, "I'm gonna shove your underwear up the crack of your ass," and then the guy lost it and just like flipped his wig. That's what it would be like. Yeah.
I didn't know that, but yeah, we would have a bad show.
Yeah.
2023 is the result of going into work and being miserable because you hate your coworker that you have to work closely with.
Yeah.
It's plain as day. The moves, the fractures, the factions, plain as day. So I just throw 2023 out the window.
Yeah, it was a bad situation.
It's a bad situation created really between Mike Vrabel and Amy Adams-Strunk.
Yeah.
Two people that are supposed to be adults that handled everything like children.
It's like they weren't communicating.
Right.
And
so the whole point is Rand Carth on that bat?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at his 2024 draft class. The Titans rookie class has played a total combined of 3,307 snaps. Some of that is out of necessity.
Yeah.
A lot of that is special teams.
I was about to ask, does that count special teams?
So that counts
snaps?
Offense, defense, special teams.
Yeah.
That's the fifth highest mark by any 2024 draft class. Washington, New York, LA Rams, and Raiders rank ahead of them. They've had a lean on this draft class. Outside of Jaquan Jackson and maybe a couple of games of J.C. Latham, are we really complaining about any of them? Right? I mean, like just off the top of your head, we're not really complaining about any of them.
Cedric Gray missed one tackle on special teams. He's
there you go.
He's a bust.
And then he's good now. But I mean, like he's been fine. So I kind of wanted to go and look and listen to this. I wanted to go through and do the hit, bust, or undecided in year one. So does their year one performance sync up to where they were drafted?
Yeah.
Okay. Apparently, if you say Jalen Harrell is a hit, it really gets your text messages going and people on the radio talk about it. Because apparently Jalen Harrell is shit. He sucks. But like he has 5 pressures and he's a 7th round pick being thrust into a duty that he's not ready for.
I feel like he's like a package player, though.
Right.
Like, I feel like they want him out there defending the run. And when you watch his tape, I mean, he can set an edge. Like, he's a pretty strong player. I don't think he has, like, this vast pass rush toolkit, but they're not really asking him to tee off and get to the quarterback. So I think it's kind of I don't know. I feel like in the building, they would probably consider that a hit for a 7th round pick.
Well, it is a hit. I mean, it's 433.
I think so, too.
Yeah, he's if you're into PFF or whatever, I think he has some good grades here and there.
Piece of the puzzle.
You know, he's played 433 snaps. He was pushing Walker Little around, the Jaguars left tackle,
who just got paid.
Who just got paid.
Yeah.
But for a 7th round pick in year one, that's a hit.
That's a hit.
J.C. Latham is a hit.
And Harrell plays special teams.
Yeah. Tavondre Sweat, a hit.
Yeah.
Cedric Gray, undecided.
TBD.
Jarvis Brownlee Jr., a hit.
A hit.
Jaquan Jackson, a bust.
Yeah.
Jalen Harrell, a hit. James Williams, a hit. Special teams demon, got special shout out today. He's probably going to play more linebacker. He may not be ready for linebacker, but he's fun to watch.
I'm going to go back. I haven't watched the defensive all 22, but I know he played a lot of snaps this past week, and that's like, I've been licking my chops, man. I want to see what the guy does.
So when you're talking about impact by draft position, that's really good.
That's really good.
And
not a lot
Jalen
of
Harrell,
teams doing that.
Yeah, Jalen Harrell and James Williams are 2 of 18 7th round picks playing in the NFL.
Yeah, man.
From the 2024 draft class. Tennessee Titans have 2 of them. So, yes, can a 6th rounder be a bust? Honestly, yes, he can. He's a bust. And a bust, miss, whatever you want to use.
There's a lot of talent that could have been taken in that spot that would have that switch to be a hit.
Yeah, so, like, to me, bust, miss, same thing. Maybe it's a little bit, more colorful to say bust, but I just think, like, it's definitely a miss.
Mm-hmm.
And he cost you, points. He turned it over and has made poor decisions. I mean, he just wasn't good.
Still has time to turn it around.
So, yeah, but that's a really good 2024 draft class.
Yeah, I would say so.
When the room is not fractured, this may be what you get every year.
Yeah.
It needs to be filled with stars.
Sure.
I mean, like Tavondre Sweat and J.C. Latham have good personalities and maybe could turn into stars, but we need playmakers, game changers, game wreckers.
Brownlee's probably got the mindset you want to be a cornerstone type of piece.
So, I mean, but this is a good start. I mean,
absolutely.
And especially if you're going to sit here and something that we've talked about all offseason is like you have to build through the draft. Your depth needs to come in the draft. Your depth came through the draft. Why are we complaining about it?
But we haven't even talked on the free agent cycle.
Let's get to it. So let's get to the free agency cycle. So you know me, I like to do good process, good results.
Yeah.
And this is more of a good process, not bad result. I think I'm going in and out on the thing. Am I good? Okay, I think we're good. So this is more of a good process, not bad result. And that's Calvin Ridley. Like, it's not a good result. You would like to see more. Now, he may end up being a 1,000-yard receiver at the end of the year, and hasn't gotten the touchdowns. He's getting really paid like a wide receiver, too. Everybody thinks he's getting paid wide receiver one money. This is exactly where I thought he would come in, and this is kind of in line with most wide receiver twos.
Yeah.
So, but again, good process. Not bad result. So I can't put it in the bad result column. Agree or disagree?
Agree wholeheartedly. I don't get the Ridley hate. There's a lot of people. I know the drops and like the lack of production, but I think part of that can still go back to the quarterback problem, where it is like misplaced balls and just not throwing his way too. So his separation numbers, especially earlier in the season, I think he's what you want in a speedy wide receiver.
Okay, people forget. Nick Westbrook-Akine was a free agent. He could have gone anywhere.
Yeah.
Came back to the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
Good process, good result.
Yes.
Nick Folk was also a free agent.
Yeah.
Could have gone anywhere. Brought him back. Good process, good result. Tony Pollard, the offensive MVP, about to hit 1,000 yards. Currently is 8th in rushing in the NFL, 2nd in the AFC. Tony Pollard.
10 out of 10 signing.
Good process, good result.
Hang on. About Ridley. To Rand's credit, we also have to remember that story about how he was about to re-sign with Jacksonville before Rand Carthon got on the phone with him.
That's true. Mason Rudolph. I put him under good process, good result.
Yeah.
Because he's a backup quarterback. He came in and won and got you some 2 wins.
Yeah.
Right? That's really all you can ask for a backup quarterback. And really this is also a good process because in recent years – you're looking at guys like Logan Woodside as your backup. The best backup the Tennessee Titans have had in a long time. Good process, good result.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Vannett. It's kind of like, it's not bad result, but I mean, hey, kind of just doesn't have anywhere else that fits. It wasn't like a bad process. I mean, this microphone keeps going out on me. Is it going out in your ear?
No, I'm hearing you.
Okay, so it must be in my battery pack. Let's take my battery pack and put it somewhere else. Okay. Sorry, it's messing me up. I'm just having all kinds of technical difficulty.
Yeah.
Sebastian Joseph Day. Good process, good result.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's scroll
I would
down.
I would say Nick Vannett is a good signing too.
I got
would
him
say
on there.
Sebastian
Good process, good result.
Joseph Day is a good signing.
Kenneth Murray. I'm going to put him in a good process, good result because you didn't spend a lot on him. You can get out of the year, get out of the contract this year. And to be honest, he is a dog.
Yeah.
And he is fighting through injury. He's played both weak side linebacker and middle side linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he's worth like the $8 or $10 million they paid him.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, basically, I said he's essentially Azeez Al-Shaair without the attempted murder.
Well, I think when you frame it like that, and you consider that, he probably was brought in here for a specific vision. Is he executing to that vision? I would say yes, absolutely. I mean, It wouldn't have been my first choice of the available linebackers.
Maybe it would be bad process, good result, and maybe that would have been the better place to put that one.
Yes, that's where I was leaning.
There we go. Okay, bad. Yeah. I'm not gonna go change in the article, but for the record, we came to the conclusion: bad process, good result.
Yeah, fair enough.
Good process, bad result. Injury division: Lloyd Cushenberry, L'Jarius Sneed, Quandre Diggs, Cheeto Woozy.
Yeah,
and listen. I know the L'Jarius Sneed trade is really split.
Mm-hmm.
They got one of the best corners on the market for a future third-round pick. They filled a hole with L'Jarius Sneed, Cheeto, Roger McCreary. Then they drafted Jarvis Brownlee Jr. They were shoring up. You have to have good players.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you have to have good players. And L'Jarius Sneed has a better chance of doing something for your team than a third-round pick will.
Yeah.
And he's going to have, if he has future impact, it wasn't just made for this year. It's a multi-year deal.
He's a beast.
I think he's on the team for at least 3 years before they can get out of it. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But
no, I think that's right.
But at the end of the day, he could still be good next year and the year after. And that's a guy that you want. So all those are good processes, just bad results. Good process, bad results, non-injury division. I'm going Tyler Boyd. Even the modest expectations that were set on him, he's not living up to it. He's kind of a invisible guy, and maybe that is a Will Levis issue, but it's also he was kind of invisible with Mason Rudolph. So
man, that's a tough one because the quarterback play, I feel like, has impacted him, but you still watch the tape and the separation, I think, it's not necessarily what you need. He's also not helping his quarterback.
Yeah.
So I'll concede with that one.
So bad process, bad results, Jamal Adams, Jerron Christian, Sadiq Charles. I think we can all agree with
that. Is it their fault? Do we hold Sadiq Charles against them because he just decided he didn't want to play football anymore?
Well, it's a bad process because he had major injury concerns and they did nothing else at that spot.
Yeah.
So that's where I put it. Like, they did nothing else at that spot besides Sadiq Charles and then switched Dylan Radins.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of where I'm at with that, is like bad process. So we're talking about 3 bad ones, 1 good process, understandable process, bad result in Tyler Boyd, bad process but good result in Kenneth Murray. So you kind of like even out.
Offset. Yeah.
And then you got all the ones that are injured that are good processes, bad results because of injury. Then you got all the ones that are good. That's a good free agency class. The problem is that people are forgetting is that they had to, first off, sign players.
Mm-hmm.
Second off, they had to tear down this. And this is the point that one of my big things I harp on. They weren't very consistent with their messaging. They switched it up when it got closer to the season, when they really should have echoed what was said in February. It was a reset. It's going to take a few years. The actions, when you really start breaking it all down, it's kind of like, okay, these moves were made to fill in gaps and holes because it was a depleted roster. They wanted some veterans because you're building a culture. And when you're building a culture, you want veterans.
Mm-hmm.
You want Cheeto and Tyler Boyd there because they already know Brian Callahan, defense and offensive guys that know Brian Callahan, that know how he works, that can instill the culture.
Yeah.
Sebastian Joseph Day, he's talked about how the culture has been great. It's an unseen thing. It's like having faith in Christianity and all that kind of stuff. Like, you got to have faith. At the end of the day, all these moves made sense. The biggest one is probably L'Jarius Sneed, where it sends the biggest signal that you think you're better than what you're going to be. And really, if L'Jarius Sneed had stayed healthy, maybe we're talking about different games and different scenarios, because at the end of the day, he wasn't playing poorly like everybody wants to make it out to be. He was disrupting the routes to where they couldn't get to the spot on the deep route in time.
Sure.
And that's what happens on those deep routes.
Mm-hmm. So where do you put Jack Gibbons in all of this?
I don't even like to consider Jack Gibbons.
Because then they had to re-sign him to like a 1-year deal. He was technically a free agent. Or was it like
he wasn't on the SPO track list.
Okay.
So
we'll scrap that conversation. But you didn't even mention guys like James Lynch, like Daryl Baker Jr., like Daryl Worley.
Yeah.
Like the free agent acquisitions that have come in and they've served as like depth pieces. Like if they go into next year and like James Lynch is defensive lineman 5 and Baker is cornerback 5 and Worley is like safety 4. Those are all good depth pieces.
Right.
And that's one of the things that we've seen emerge is that I just really feel like the hit rate this specific cycle has been pretty positive.
Yeah. I also look at it like this. I mean, first off, you got to spend money. You got to have good players.
Yeah.
If they didn't sign and take some risks with some of these other players, like with Ridley, he's had some drops, but I think mostly a lot of it could be traced back to quarterback play.
Yeah.
And Snead obviously had a freak injury with the helmet. That's a totally different thing. But I kind of look at it like you take those risks as they become available. And again, a third round pick, a future third round pick, that's fine to take the risk. Yeah. Because you want that guy here long term. You still want Ridley here next year.
Absolutely.
If we didn't have Ridley, are we even going to be a 3-win team?
Where does
right?
but where does the money go?
Yeah.
Like
there was really no clear path by the time that you signed Ridley.
Yeah.
Where that money could go, and then this team is suddenly better.
Yeah.
Because like Darnell, I think, did Darnell Mooney get signed before Calvin Ridley? I don't know. But like, let's say that Darnell Mooney didn't, just in case he did.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say he didn't. Darnell Mooney was, I think, the second highest paid wide receiver. Oh, what's he doing for your team? Right? I mean, like, we got to get real here. Oh, the trade for Ernest Jones. I was really just talking about signings, but I think the trade for Ernest Jones, good move.
Good move.
And traded him out. It was a
good move.
I mean, I'll be honest. Like, you know, I don't care about Jerome Baker. I don't care that he's performing well over Seattle. That was a good process. They ended with a good result. And linebackers are a dime a dozen. I mean, like we saw that with Jack Gibbons came in, Luke Gifford came in, and now we'll see it. Otis Reese came in. Like linebackers are just the running backs of the defense.
Yeah.
And I mean, like none of these players besides L'Jarius Sneed are at the top of the market.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else is outside the top 10. I think Ridley is 16th in AAV. Like none of these guys are getting really paid outrageously, like crazy, except for L'Jarius Sneed, which he earned. He earned it. And now he earned it for the Titans? No, but he earned a big payday.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here. So let's talk about this Colts game.
Oh, it's go time, huh?
Anthony Richardson. Yeah. Okay, because I think we're probably coming up on 2 hours. So Anthony, we may have to split this up into 2 episodes. Anthony Richardson.
We need a clock in here.
Yeah, we really do. 48% completion percentage. Terrible quarterback.
Yeah.
This team obviously got called soft all week. They are going to come out and just hammer it, right? Like you have to come out and hammer it.
Yeah. I mean, like I just feel like Brian Callahan had to be eating that shit up. Like, I cannot wait to put this in front of my locker room that this is out there. Like, they've got Mike's picture on the dartboard in the locker room.
Yeah.
Just getting ready for this game. I do think that this could be a potential boiling over moment where it's like enough is enough and you're going to take it out on the Indianapolis Colts. And by the way, perfectly capable of being bowled over are the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
It's not a good football team. I know they're technically competitive and they're still in the wild card race, but I just don't think this is a very good football team right now.
You have to come out and smack them in the mouth.
Yeah, for sure.
And listen, if that's just the defense smacking them around, that may be the case because, I mean, it is Mason Rudolph. And look, no offense to Mason Rudolph or anything. It's just boring. And boring it can be effective. It can be efficient.
I mean, a boring throw to Calvin Ridley can turn into a fireworks show.
Right. So at the end of the day, it's just you got to – I don't think it's for job security or anything, but it's just the narrative around this team the whole week. Yeah. You really need to come out and smack them in the mouth. And you really need to smack everybody in the mouth these next 3 weeks. And I kind of get the sense that when I look at it, I see a team that is wanting to win, not a coach that feels like he needs to win, because we've already heard that he's safe.
Mm-hmm.
This is a team that wants to win. They're saying, fuck your draft status.
Yeah.
We don't care about the draft pick. We're the ones putting in the work. We're the ones putting in the blood, sweat, and tears every week. We're the ones away from our family on road trips and road games, and we're the ones having to get in an ice baths and do rehab and wake up at 5 a.m. so we can get to the facility at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
We want to win, and we deserve to win.
Yeah.
And I think that's the team you're going to see the rest of the way.
And I think that's the right mindset. I think we get caught up in the draft pick, but I don't think in the building they're thinking about it. And rightfully so, because the draft is still ultimately a crapshoot. And you don't have a guy that's going to just come around and like magically turn all of this around. And the players aren't looking at that like, oh, gee golly, we should lose this game. That way maybe we could get Abdul Carter and he could fix the Titans. No, they believe in themselves.
Especially Arden Key and Harold Landry, because Abdul Carter could send their asses out of here.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make sense. And we hear it time and time again from coaches in press conferences, from players in locker rooms. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about the Indianapolis Colts. They're thinking about this week, and they want to win the game.
Yeah.
And I think before is like the spark of the quarterback change probably gives them a little fuel. But then with this story coming out and Brian Callahan's reaction to it, I think it's just pouring gas on the fire. And I would be really surprised if this was a team that if this team didn't look like they were out for blood.
So do we give the credit to Easton if that is the case, because he asked the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Easton gets a job with the Titans for that. He's going to be special consultant to
I look at it like this. When you look at this team, when Will Levis got benched, Jarvis Brownlee Jr. went really in detail and depth about how, he hated that someone got benched, but he really loves that shows accountability.
Yeah.
And I know people laugh at it like, you're holding the players to accountability, but not the coaches. Well, if the coaches were doing something wrong, I think we'd have our answer about accountability.
Yeah.
And
wouldn't that be awesome, though, if Brian Callahan went into a press conference and was like, I'm firing myself because I'm holding myself accountable because I missed that call?
I would look at it like this, too. There's the fact that, that when you really start diving in deep, these issues, and like we said earlier, just all stem from the quarterback. And here's the thing. I don't know if Mason Rudolph saw, and now listen, Chef Ran, you cannot be talking about Sam Darnold because you already said Jalen Milroe was your final answer, if I'm not mistaken. So Chef Ran already switching off his final answers here.
Yeah.
I think it was. Maybe I'm wrong. But at the end of the day, it's quarterback situation. And listen, I don't know if Mason Rudolph solves the quarterback situation because he definitely doesn't. I would, at least not long term. So maybe the offense still stalls out. Maybe the offense can only still get field goals. I don't know. But I do know this team has no quit in them. And this team is going to come, and they got effort, and they're tough. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love watching this team play. How about that?
Yeah.
How's that for some positivity?
Hey, you love watching this team
love watching this team play.
I don't know if I could say the same, but, I do.
I'm telling you, man, like there's good stuff on tape.
There is good stuff on tape. I just don't know if it's a fun experience every Sunday.
I don't love watching Peter Skoronski trip over Daniel Brunskill's feet when he's trying to pull.
Yeah, I'll say this, it's a much easier team to watch on the All-22 than in real time.
Yeah. And you can always just press the next clip button too.
That will do it for us. What do you got coming up at Stack in the Inbox this week?
I'm doing Film Friday tomorrow morning. We're going to look at the 4 turnovers from Will Levis.
No James Williams?
No James Williams, no. I'm going to be in a car tomorrow traveling for the holidays, taking a couple of weeks off. So I've got stuff that I clipped right after the game. And then I got into the week and was like, man, we're really beating up on Will Levis this week. Maybe I shouldn't post this film study about his mistakes, but I didn't have time to go clip the James Williams stuff. I did Otis Reese last week, though.
Yeah.
While everybody was dogging
he was awesome.
Will Levis.
It was fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right, that'll do. Jackson, you got any final words from behind the glass?
We caught him off guard.
Great show.
There you go. He wasn't probably even watching. He's got some manatee up on the screen. I don't know what's going on in there. It's
like
just a
desktop
background. I don't know what he's into.
Gross.
Hey, listen.
I know.
Different strokes for different folks.
No
We're not-
judging,
yeah.
no shaming. We don't.
We don't
go
freak
over,
shame.
Yeah, we can go over my freak stuff. I'm
Yeah.
on the freak squad with Leroy Watson.
Yeah, Leroy Watson, freak squad leader. Rest in peace.
I know. Pour
We'll
one
miss
out.
you.
Yeah.
We'll miss you, Leroy.
Hang on.
Yeah?
Hang on.
One more thing. Here's Stoney's. One more thing.
Tavondre Sweat, 552 snaps, most among rookie defensive linemen. So much for that conditioning question,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, who could have seen that coming? Only these two boys in the seats right here.
Only these two tough fuckers.
Yeah. Only these two tough fuckers. No milk babies in this studio.
No. Hell no.
All right, that'll do it for us. Cover 2 of the Blaine and the Zach 1 through 3 p.m. every weekday. Then we, of course, we have Titans Talk Back every night, heading into 6:30 p.m. after every game.
How about that?
Whew, it is fun. Jackson will be there too, so it'll be great. That'll be me, Kevin Dyson, and Brent, right? Brent this week?
He's watching manatees again.
Yeah, he's watching those manatees over there. I hear the chair rolling. Yeah, Brent's there this week. So other than that, this has been Football and Other F Words, and you have just been effed.